Good morning, everybody! Or anybody who has managed to sneak over here from Steven's pop-up soda. I know. I tend to have my lives during his pop-up sodas, or I could also say he has to have his pop-up sodas during my live, whichever way we want to talk about it. I get it. Saturdays are the best for everybody for pop-up soda, so I like to let him do those. And if you can't make me live, you are welcome to catch the replay because replays are just as much fun, if not better, because then you can fast forward through me. I hope everybody is having a awesome day. I'm trying to get my computer to decide to refresh the temperature. It's a balmy 79 degrees here in the metro Atlanta area. I'm not thrilled about the weather we've been having lately, but at the same time, it could be worse. What was it? For almost 2 weeks, we've had rain every day, and it has been humid and muggy. And my electric bill is happier because the rain cools everything down inside the house, makes the air conditioner not have to work as hard. So there's that side of it. But when it's every evening you get a downpour, it gets old fast. And we've had a couple days this week where it hasn't rained, but we've had heat indexes of like 104. So, yeah, and when the temperature is only like in the low 90s and it gets a heat index of 104, that's a little intense. Good. Let's see. We have Bettina here and says it's the same there in Tennessee. Good morning, Jen. I hope everybody's having an awesome day. Today I'm going to be working on my Saturday Sampler block. Saturday Sampler is a program that is part of my local quilt shop. You have to be present and in person at my local quilt shop in order to participate in their exact program. I have been finding similar blocks for people to do if they want to join in sewing with me. So in the description below is a similar block. It's not exactly the same as this one. I think a majority of, let's see, can I get a focus? There we go to focus. Although you don't really need the advertisement over here. This is what I'm going to be making. The block that I have posted in the description below is called a jewel box, which is very close to this. It's put together a bit differently, but I can't share this exact pattern because it's not mine. And while technically a quilt block is easily like reproducible and stuff, I can't share the instructions. So I hate that, but it is what it is. I don't have the energy to try to figure out how to reproduce the instructions myself. Because honestly, we get step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, 5, and so it's a couple steps. But it just easily reproduces. It's like a recipe. I feel like it should be able to be done, but like I said, it's a close block. I have everything cut. It's amazing that this little bit of stuff will end up making a block. After looking at everything, I probably would have done a couple of the cutting just a little bit different. But, it works either way. So I'm not going to complain too much about it. Let's see. We also have had Jackie pop in saying it's only 101 in Phoenix and they're on their way to 115. As I've said before, I understand it's a dry heat, but 115 is too much. Good morning, Charlotte and Brian. Glad y'all have joined me. I'm going to pop over to my sewing cam just so that I can, have some entertainment with y'all. As I said, I have everything cut, and it's kind of interesting because if you look at, let's see, how do I make this? If you look at the diagram, you think, oh, wait, this doesn't make sense because, why are we doing two rectangles here that are the same color? They're not the same color. They're two different fabrics. One of the fabrics is this gorgeous, no idea what it's called. It's like a little bursts. And the other fabric is the background. But they just don't have enough room of shades, I guess, to do that. So that was kind of interesting as I was doing the cutting. When I was looking at the diagram, I said, why are we doing it this way? Why am I not doing a rectangle? And then I saw what was going on. I was like, okay, that's why we're not doing a rectangle. So part of this block is I'm making a handful of half square triangles. Half square triangles are with this. This is a new fabric that they have given us in the program. Again, we don't get to pick our fabrics. We deal with what they give us. So, but the way that the program is you get to make it your own. They've given us fat eighths of all the fabrics, and we can swap fabrics however we want. It makes it a little bit more difficult if you wanted, I don't know, I'm going to say purple for your background instead of white, because they keep giving us the regular background. We'd have to purchase the purple to swap it. So it's not truly choose your own adventure, but it's close enough. Oh, I forgot that I have to do it this way. Let's see, I gotta figure out my math. Not that button. And I had to reset my settings in order to get. I can. I can do it that way. I didn't realize that my machine went below 0. That means I can put the width back to the normal. Okay. And then, so what I did, because it's a nightmare and I don't normally do this, normally I set my settings to be 0 and whatever the number is off to the side for my quarter inch of the sides. And this time, since I accidentally found out that my thing goes below 2.5, I could line up my laser light with the quarter inch on the tape, and then I can keep my needle in the center, which is going to make me a lot happier. And this just avoids me from having to draw the line. It makes it a little bit more difficult trying to figure out, where the quarter inch is up top, but I can find it easily down here. And once you have it, as long as you stay on your tape, it's fine. Charlotte is asking, is that a new tattoo on my wrist? No, it is not a new tattoo on my wrist. I've had this tattoo for 1 year, 2 months, and 2 days. When I was in Massachusetts last year, right before I went, I had seen a tattoo just like this on the Facebooks. And I just happened to post it in the family chat and said, hey, I kind of like this tattoo. My cousin said, let's get tattoos while I'm up here. And I was like, Okay, sure, why not? And my sister said, "Oh, if we're getting tattoos, I'm in too." And then my other cousin that was coming up said the same thing, that she wanted in as well. So the initial cousin who said, "Let's get tattoos while I'm up there," she called her tattoo artist that has done most of her tattoos and said, "Hey, do you have availability while my cousins are up so that we can get tattoos?" And she showed simple, not simple, samples of what we were looking for, just so that he could um, see what was going on and make a decision as to how much time and effort he would need in order to do the tattoos, just to make sure that he had the appropriate availability. And we got appointments, and it just happened to be the first day of June, the first day of Pride Month. And the four of us got a Pride themed tattoo. Uh, my vlogs back in June of last year have some conversations about it. So if you go back and look at those, uh, you can see everything about them, and you can see my sister's tattoo and both my cousin's tattoo. Only because I don't have an easy way to show the tattoos here. But like I said, they are in the videos. The second step that we have, assuming my half square triangles came out pretty good, is to put a triangle on all four sides of the square. Which, realizing this is how we're doing it, I'm changing feet. This is one of the steps that I would have done slightly different. I would have set the, or I would have cut the center square, the size of it finished, and cut 4 squares of this fabric and just snowballed. But they want it to do this way, and the half square triangles then are the only pieces that I need my open toe foot, so I'm switching over to my 1/4 inch foot. To line these up, what you want to do is make sure you have about the same amount hanging off on each side. Kind of hard to see, but I think you can see it. I have about a 1/4 inch over here, about a 1/4 inch over here. Not exactly a 1/4 inch, uh, but it's close. Jackie says she wishes it was a dry heat. Oh, it is now monsoon season. Oh, I'm sorry. I visited a large number of years ago at this point for Labor Day weekend, and my friend David told me it was monsoon season, and it was kind of miserable. Drop my fabric. So I do get it. It was also weird because the rain showers that we got while I visited, they were big drops of rain, which I'm accustomed to here in Georgia, but they were sparse big drops of rain. Meaning it was a good rain shower, but it didn't feel satisfying to Georgia standards. I do know that different parts of the country rain is different. So I'm going to attribute it to that. But it was just strange. So in order to get these other side pieces on, because I have a 1/4 inch foot, I want to trim these extra pieces off. So I have a flat surface to sew against. And I finally changed my rotary blade, so this should be fairly easy. And in this case, I'm just lining it up against the fabric and just doing a quick slice. And all I took off was the dog ears. Jackie goes out early in the morning before it gets too hot. Still miss the Florida rains. Yeah, southern rains are both amazing and incredible and horrible. I'm still, lining up even on both sides. I still remember there was a year, a friend of mine who grew up in Vermont. She had been living in Boston for a few years, and then she moved to Lake Placid, New York. So she's basically been in the Northeast her entire life. She came down to Atlanta for a convention for work, I believe it was. And I think she spent an extra couple days, and I said, let's just go hang out like we used to. And I took her out to Stone Mountain just because, it's a great adventure. She loves like running, hiking, outdoorsy stuff. And they have a laser show in the evening as well. So I was like, this will be a fun little adventure. And we are there, and the sky just opened up. And she was like, I've never seen rain like this before. She was kind of terrified. And I was like, it's just a little rain. Which has been basically what's been going on the last like 10 days, or 10 of the last 14 days, where we would just get a giant landslide of rain. And I'm just like, it's just a little rain. So this is the centerpiece. Showing it up here. I have to trim this down to the size that it's expecting. Um, Let me trim my half square triangles first, because that's the other trimming. For half square triangles, I'm just going to slice down the center. My stitching wasn't straight, but I'm going to be squaring these up because I cut these slightly large. So is anybody working on anything exciting today? I know after the live, I'm going to be running over to Steven's channel, not Steven's channel, Steven's Pop-Up Sew Day. It's hosted on Zoom. It's not broadcast anywhere. And it's like 20 to 30 people that you've probably seen in the chats, just hanging out and working on whatever we want to work on. It's not broadcast, so it's private. He does ask that you have your camera on. We don't care how messy your sewing space is. Okay, let's trim these down because I can trim these down on camera because I've got the room on here. I cannot trim this one down on camera because it's too big for this little mat. So the way I'm going to trim it up is I'm just going to line the diagonal on the diagonal and slice, slice. And because I'm going to call this a spinning mat because I can make it spin, I can get this third side done just because the width of the ruler just happens to be the width of the half square triangle. And then now all I have to do is line up these sides and then just trim the top off. And I did not slice it too much bigger because I'm just getting slivers off. Again, I'm lining up and I'm using the advantage that this is a spinning mat because I can spin it. Any mat that you can move is a spinning mat. You don't need one of the expensive, $70 mats. You can just do one that is, I don't know how much these cost. I got it in a Fort Worth Fabric Studio subscription box. Wait, which side is which? Okay, this is the side that I need. Also keep tabs of which side that you haven't trimmed. Or is it this side that I haven't trimmed? Because there's so little that I'm trimming off, it's hard to see. It's the white side that needs to be trimmed. See, I'm tearing off like 3 threads. Good morning, Mona and Landa and Dale. Yvette says she lived in Colorado and had small compressed drops. Went to Atlanta, experienced fat drops. Yep, and was mesmerized and could not stop watching it rain. And now in Pensacola, storms are next level storms. Yeah. Jen says her project for today is finishing 10 port pillows before she cuts for her next quilt. Brian, unfortunately, is spending some time with his seam ripper. last week seemed to be seam ripper day for everybody. It started on my friend Sean's channel, the guy who sews. During his live, he had to pull out his seam ripper several times. And then it went over to Donnell, and they had to pull out the seam ripper within like the first minute. And then when I started my live and everything, I had to pull out the seam ripper a couple times. And I think it's been a week, because even though I didn't get to do much sewing throughout the week because my back went spasming thanks to work, I'm better now. I came in here on Wednesday for a short period to try to get the borders done for As the Crow Flies. And yeah, I cut fabric wrong and said, okay, I am done for the day. Thankfully, the wrong was just slightly too short, which means I could just add some extra fabric to it. And because they're borders, it's not like you really see it. And it's an inner border of a very light fabric, so if anybody notices, they're not going to get a quilt ever again. So I had enough fabric that I could easily just add on. I just need to recut the fabric size. Okay, I've got my 4 half square triangles. I've got my straight pieces. That's why my iron didn't seem like it was working fine. It was on low. And then I'm going to quickly cut this over here. And it needs to be that size. Okay. There's not a lot that is being cut off here. But it's also not exact. Which is why I would have preferred to do it a slightly different way. Because when you cut a square the size that you need and snowball it, you could fudge a lot easier than when you are dealing with a square on the diagonal. So I just barely trim these down. If I can't see it on a galloping horse at 10 feet, you're golden. I've heard 5 feet, but... Or was it 6 feet? It was a different number of feet. But it's always a galloping horse. So for... the other straight pieces, I've got a handful of... I think these were called mediums, and these were called light ones. that need to be sewn together, and then I have these rectangles that need to be sewn together. And then we'll have all the building blocks to put it together. I'm going to start with the little ones. The only reason why I get irritated, and I'm using the term loosely, when things aren't exact is because I'm a little OCD. And knowing that you need a square root of 2 in order to do diagonal things, and square root of 2 is not a measurement on our ruler, it makes it a little bit more of a challenge to be exact. That's why some of those patterns end up saying, 3/8 or 7/8. That's their way of trying to get close to a square root of 2. I wonder what Andy Math would say about trying to measure the proper angles in a quilt block when we have to add our stuff. Andy Math is a YouTube channel that has recently been thrown in my suggestions on YouTube. And he does like 2-minute videos or 2 to 4 minute videos showing how to solve math problems that even I will look at and be like, you can't solve this. And it's because there's a certain formula that either I never learned in school or I don't remember from school. I think the strangest one was it was a couple months ago. There's a circle with 4 squares in it. And the question is, what is the area of the circle? And I'm like, how am I supposed to know? There's nothing that's giving me a diagonal or anything. But he goes and he's like, these are the notes that we need. And then this is how we apply the notes to this weird thing. And I doubt we would ever do it in real world examples. There's a lot of the math stuff that I'm like, when are we going to need this in real world? And then some of it, my sister, well, no, let me rephrase that. Last summer, my sister was taking, was it last summer? Last fall, last spring? Last something, she was taking math for business. And they were using a lot of the terms that I remember hearing. And I'm sure I probably learned it that way in school. But I said, nobody does it this way in the real world. Which is very amusing because, like, the way that it's done in the real world is kind of close. But, one, you know everything that's going on in the real world. So you don't have to translate a word problem. But also, you're not, because you know what's going on in the real world and you know how your finances are or how your accounting or growth and stuff is going, you don't necessarily need stupid formulas to figure out, what price should you be charging in order to maximize everything. Because even in the real world, that doesn't happen. I could imagine Tulip Pink going in and saying, what price per yard should I be charging for my fabric? Because I want to maximize all the money that I get. And it's because, as the price goes up, people buy less. I'm just more the philosophy under anything that I would sell is like, how much is it worth? I would make a bad Ferengi. And I'm sure everybody has seen the announcement. Fort Worth Fabric Studio, our awesome friends over there, they are starting a new sew along in a couple weeks called For the Most Part. It's their Christmas sew along. I've seen the kits. I'm excited about it. I will be sewing it up on my channel on Saturday mornings, like I did with As the Crow Flies. It's a bigger project, so until I get a chance to start looking at the patterns, I gotta see how much we will be sewing on the channel versus how much I'm gonna be doing for homework. My friend Stephanie of Quilting with Stephanie Stitches, she does the tutorials along with Kathy of Kathy's Cute Creations. So every Monday, I go look at the patterns to say, okay, how much effort is going on, what's going on. And then I start planning the Saturdays. Good morning, Kathleen, and good morning, Maritz's Yarn and Crafts. Or she said hola, so I can say buenos noches? Probably said that really horribly, and I apologize. No, wait, noches is evening, isn't it? Buenos dias. I only know the Spanish that Sesame Street taught me back in the day, or what I can pick up from I Love Lucy. Okay, these pieces get one of these on all four sides, or both sides, and then we can start piecing everything together. I took French in high school, so that's why my Spanish is nowhere near what anything should be. Have a wonderful day, Mona. Charlotte says she traded some of her weaving equipment for a Grace Q Zone hoop frame. So learning to quilt on it. That sounds fun. Yes, Kathleen. I'm still working on month 5 because I do third Saturday. And she said that she just got back with month 6 being really cool. I They may have already posted it on the website. I haven't looked yet. But I know I'm going to need to look because I need to go hunt down a similar pattern because I'm sharing a similar pattern with these for anybody who wants to sew along that are not part of the Tiny Stitches program. Since, as you know, you need to be local for it. I know in 2 weeks when I will be there, they will be in the middle of their Christmas in July program. No, I'm sorry, Christmas in August program. Reveal, not program. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they will be doing for that. Christmas just reminded me of the, snow and everything. A friend of mine who lives in Massachusetts posted that she was tired of all the heat, which I'm like, can it really be bad as here? But she's like, she was exhausted from the heat, and I said, just be thankful it's not snowing. Could you imagine shoveling in all this heat? Oh, thankfully she didn't smack me. And here in Georgia, we would not be shoveling in this heat because most people here in Georgia do not own a snow shovel. I remember my first winter after I moved here. It has snowed like 1.5 inches or so. Weatherman said it was like 4 inches. I'm like, this is not 4 inches. And I needed to go somewhere, so I got into my truck, started it up, pulled out of the back behind the seat my snow brush, and I'm brushing off all the snow off the truck because it's illegal to drive with snow on your vehicle. Again, something that people here don't fully understand. And I had neighbors come out like, what is that? I was like, it's a snow brush. Where did you get it? Ames. Where's Ames? Massachusetts. And when I went up there for Thanksgiving one year, well, it was 2 years, but the first year, it was probably 3 or 4 days I had been up there. And then I finally went into the back seat and looked down, like, there's a snow brush. They gave us a snow brush. I'm excited they gave us a snow brush. Hopefully, I don't need a snow brush. I think the department stores here have started, or the big box store, I'll call them, started carrying snow brushes after one of the big storms that we've had. because I'll see them for every now and then when I go to look. Okay, so the layout, and I have to follow the color picture for this. Puts the little bursts pointing out. The half square triangles pointing out. And the big burst in the center. That's got to look good for me because there's no other option. I'm going to pull the left row off over here and just start sewing everything in rows. I have to say, it's been nice kind of timing how much time it takes me to do a Saturday sampler block. Doing the blocks live, I know about how long it takes for me to put them together, and it takes like 15 to 20 minutes to cut. So basically it takes an hour to an hour and 15 minutes basically to do a Saturday sampler block. I probably should have sewn this upside down because right now I am doing the stitch and pray method of my point because I did not have any visibility as to where my point was. Oops. But an hour and 15 minutes to complete a block, and that's just me chit-chatting and not being fully focused, is not bad. With there being 12 blocks, that really means it's being, a total of 14, 15 hours of putting these blocks together. Okay, how did I do with my point? Ooh, I prayed pretty good. I got my point. There we go. I got a point. In fact, I'm going to do it like this so I make sure I get my other point. And then I will sew the top and bottom on so I can see the points and I can show you what I'm doing. Charlotte says that she's guessing most folks in Texas wouldn't recognize a snow brush. I remember a couple of years ago when Texas had that big, horrible snowstorm. And the only reason why I really know much about it is because I watch a few YouTube channels that are based in Texas, and they're like, it was miserable. Okay, I'm going to do this row like we're supposed to. So what I see right here is there's a seam line going this way. There's a seam line going this way, so I have an X here. As long as my needle hits just to the right of this X, I will not lose my point. If I get on this side of the X, I will lose the point by however much I cut it off. But if I leave it on just this side, I don't recommend going exactly through the point, only because there's a little bit of fabric that's bulk in the fold. So you need to be about half a thread's width or a full thread's width over, depending on your fabric, in order to make sure you meet it. So I am going to line up and I almost feel like I did better with my stitch and pray. And then doing all of this upside down is not ideal. I'm going to have to remember next time to do it upside right. I think I got them pointing correctly, though. We'll find out in a second. But yeah, that crazy storm you had a few years ago, that was insane. But it caused one of the YouTubers that I watch to install more solar. And he did a test. Okay, so I got a basically perfect points on both. So I'm good with that. For pressing, this bulk wants everything to go this way, so the outsides are going to go in. But as I was saying, he's done a couple tests on his solar setup. Emergency preparedness test. And he has to do them when his wife is out of town. But he basically, at 5 a.m. or something, he would turn off the main breaker to the house and throw everything basically into emergency preparedness mode, which was, I guess he cut everything down to like 1 or 2 rooms. So he was able to run a air conditioner or heater, but only in a room or 2. And obviously you're not going to set them full blast because you don't have all the electricity in the world. But he was just showing how much his battery backups and solar panels would work. And like the random days he picked weren't even fully sunny days, and he was able to do mostly well. He fared mostly well. It is something that I don't think I want to try because 1, I don't have the emergency backups, and 2, I've seen what my house gets like whenever I don't have air conditioner because last year 40 nights, 40 days. So I know how miserable it is in the house if I've only got like 2 window units that I'm allowed to run. Almost done with the pressing. Okay. And I got my corner pieces pointing in the right direction, doing another quick check. My starburst on the outside. Everything looks good. Again, I'm going to flip this over this way. And I just realized I didn't give anybody an update on my niece. I mean, I'm going to give an update tomorrow, but she had her surgery yesterday. I didn't measure how long it took because I had a crazy day at work yesterday. My sister was there the entire time, but apparently she got 4 screws. There were 2 screws in the bone and 2 screws in the ligaments because it was worse than they initially anticipated. The ligament screws, I believe, are going to go away at some point at a later surgery. The bone screws, I don't think, are ever going to come out. But I now have decided that I have a bionic niece. I have not asked how she's feeling today because, yesterday she was high on all of the surgery meds. So I haven't had a chance to get a today update. And they were working on, or at one point they were on hold with the nursing program at her school to see what options she has to make sure she doesn't miss graduation in May. Because she's in the nursing program and you need a certain number of clinic hours in order to graduate. And all I'm thinking is there has to be some sort of a contingency plan for events like this that have already been planned out. So I'm hoping they've got a good contingency plan. Like maybe she can double up on hours at certain points. I went upside down again. Oops. I am not going to do a start and stop. I'm just going to stitch and pray. And to be honest, if I was going to be doing this on my own, I probably would have done a stitch and pray in all of the seams. I was just trying to be a little helpful for anybody who is trying to follow along. Get a couple of weird tips that I do. Charlotte says she hopes that she mends well and fast. I do too. I did not lose a point. So I'm happy with that. The main reason why I hope she mends well and fast and that she's able to still graduate in May is if she doesn't graduate in May, I'm going to have to go to Massachusetts 2 years in a row. Which means I'm going to be spending, quilt shop money 2 years in a row. Because I can't go up there and not spend money at the awesome quilt shops. Especially when they carry fabrics that you can't find here. I mean, it's not all fabrics, but they've done a lot of there's a lot of fabrics that I have seen only up there. And here is the final block. Like I said, I love these. So this is block 5. I have the other blocks over here that are no longer as ironed as they used to be. I think this was block 1. I don't remember which month this was. So they're in some order. And then this is number 4. So they've all basically been a type of a star. Well, this one's not fully a star. I think the closest version that I found in the program that, or the similar block is a jewel box. So this is similar to a jewel box. Kathleen says it was her first square in a square and didn't lose any points. Nice. Like I said, the way that I would have probably done it would have been cut a square that's the size we should have squared up to, and cut 4 squares for the corners and snowball them kind of like you do flying geese. whatever the measurements are for flying geese would have been the size of the squares. It would have caused some waste, and that's the wonderful thing about, I think, all the blocks that we've had so far in this program. There's been very little waste, if any. So that's one of the advantages of doing it the way that they did here. Most of the time, I will buy a little bit of extra fabric so I can have that little bit of waste. And I didn't have time to really go through and figure out everything that was going on here to say, could I do extra fabric with this? Or I could have ended up, going over to the shop and say, I need more fabric. But when you do things at a last second, or in some months, first second, I don't have those luxuries. So again, this is the quilt block that we just made. And I'm going to go look on their website to see what the next block is, since Kathleen's already seen it. So I'm going to cut this live now. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful rest of your day. If you want to join us, go join us on Stephen the Idiot Quilter's Pop-Up Sew Day. The link to his Pop-Up Sew Day is in any of his video descriptions, so you can just go search the YouTube for the Idiot Quilter, and you will find in any of the descriptions of his videos the link to his Pop-Up Sew Day. You can join us over there. And yeah, it's a lot of fun over there. I'm going to go over there and try to get the rest of As the Crow Flies done. Hope you guys have a great day. Toodles!